we are with another How to Draw from How to Train Your Dragon 2. We did earlier, we did for beginners using a grid. We did Hiccup and Toothless, but here we're going to do Valka, the dragon rider, his mum who turns up in the film. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed How to Train Your Dragon 1 and number 2. I'm not going to give any plot spoilers in the film, other than what people kind of know in case you go and see it and then enjoy the DVD or Blu-ray later. But anyway, this one we're just going to do very quickly, as I say, with and do check out the other video on how to do this. Is for beginners using a grid, Hiccup and Toothless, but this is going to be using shapes. If I did the how to draw anything video using shapes and building things, just going to do it very, very quickly, and then you're going to colour it in using watercolour and gouache on my palettes here. So we're just going to get straight in and just draw very quickly. Now the thing with this character is the dragon rider, she's all made up of shapes. So you've got a big shield, which is just a kind of circle and ellipse, and the kind of top of a head. And you all in the how to draw anything using shapes, I explain how you can use boxes, cylinders, cones, circles, ellipses, and that's just all these are. So you've got like funny little cones and funny lines, and you can draw the shapes. So there's a big circle for the shield, and then you can just draw coming off the bottom of the shield bit of a kind of rectangle, but just kind of pudging out, and that's a foot. And then you've got like these little lines, and then you've got 2, 3, 4, 5 little points coming off, and then the cape fluttering in the wind. You can do as big as you want as it blows away. It's just, you know, you can draw a box on very quickly, and then as it's ragged, you can draw another box shape. And then the body, a torso is, and around the neck is just a bit of a box shape, and the leg coming down underneath the shield, the kind of skirts, they're all just little rectangles coming down to her other foot, which is a little bit higher, and then a rectangle coming down off this side for her arm, which kind of comes down about halfway, and then little triangles for the fingers. So I've got 3 there, and a hand comes around, and then you've got the big wiggly staff, a dragon staff. As that comes around, these are just simple shapes, and then she's got little triangles on for the rocks that are put in, like the little points, the blade kind of points, prodders, what you tap a dragon with, a bit like you'd tap a horse with stirrups, you can imagine. And then that goes up into a hand, and then the collars onto, you know, just nice little stripes. Just move that out of the way a second because I'm just knocking my knuckles on it. And then that comes up to the shoulder, and you've got points that come off. Again, these are just nice simple points. And the staff, it's kind of a bit of a reverse question mark, so it's a bit like an S. If you just imagine drawing a big S and you come round, and then the hole in is a little ellipse, and you can just kind of flesh out the mask a little bit. There's the eyes, which are just 2 little ellipses, the stitching over the top. And if you just go over quickly and detail it up a little bit, because you've put those shapes in really quickly, you can put a darker line down and get your outline down very, very fast, and then you can colour it in, whether you want to use crayons, pencil crayons, or as I'm going to do, just paint in a moment very quickly. You know, you just put some lines on for the banding around a big boot cover. There's prongs, And you can just have fun experimenting with shapes to produce your images, because that's all they are. They're just little shapes. So you've got little triangles here on the teeth, and then you've got a rectangle. I say that's part of the kind of skirt thing that comes down, and a leg, and then another skirt, a bit kind of kilt-esque. Got 3 little claws, Wolverine-esque claws there. Hand comes underneath. And we've got this in very quickly just by drawing a shape. There's a rectangle, and then like dragon scales coming down. You've got the part coming down of a chest. There's another circle there, and then you've got these layered parts like armour, old armour that was made. If you look at armour from hundreds of years ago that kings used to wear, it was, especially the dress armour, it was all beautifully made but very, very heavy. So here we've got the spikes coming off the top of her head. Pretty groovy, really. Imagine Hiccup being scared, seeing this appear in the clouds before you. You've got coming down, and then you want a left shoulder, and then just let your pencil kind of flow for the wiggly bits on the torn cape that she has. And there, very quickly, just using cylinders and shapes, rectangles, triangles, you got very, very quickly a nice image down of the dragon rider, which is Valka, obviously Hiccup's mum, and there's a lot in the story. I'm not going to give plot spoilers away from the film. Go and enjoy it, it's absolutely fantastic. How to Train Your Dragon 1 was one of my favourite films ever. I just thought it was brilliant. It's just a really good story, and that's the beautiful thing about it. It's a good story with good characters. How to Train Your Dragon 3 is already in the pipeline. Now again, just you can put some indication lines on if you're going to colour it in very quickly for what you're going to do. And for colouring in, I'm going to put the yellow on first, and then the blues, and then the reds and the browns. Just messing about. Like I said, I've got some brushes and I've got my paints. That's very quick. And work with the lighter colours and then build it back afterwards. And you can see how adding your darker colours will make it stand out rather nice. Again, I'm just going to whack this on quite quickly. It's quite hot at the moment, so this will dry probably very, very quickly. So there's some yellows down. I want some kind of woody colour. There we go, coming down on the staff. Painting that in very quickly. And we can put some shadows in on that in a moment. Then we want the kind of nice turquoisey blue. So I'm using gouache. I've also, the gouache is this palette here. This is watercolour. Gouache is opaque, but you can really thin it down and make it act a little bit like watercolour. So there we get the blue on the shield. Just push that up a little bit with your finger. Painting and drawing can just be fun and messy, and you can just enjoy it as much as you like. And don't worry about making mistakes or what people think are mistakes. Just enjoy being creative and splatting the paint around. Especially, I mean, like How to Train Your Dragon is digital, and I was reading about one cartoonist who is in his late 70s now, and he was a political cartoonist in the UK called Ralph Steadman, but he says the wetter the better. He doesn't really like a lot of digital stuff. Now, digital's great because it's quick and it can be rendered and it can be moved out, but there's just something so satisfying about producing a painting using gouache, watercolour, inks, and you just get to have so much fun, and you can get messy. And not that getting messy is necessarily always fun, but there's just something really rewarding about putting paint down and pencil craying and just enjoying the application process. Whereas when you do digital, all you get is a digital render and you can only get a print off. Whereas, you know, you can finish this and you can give it to friends and family and stick it on the fridge, and all of a sudden you've got something that's really enjoyable and people can just smile about it, and there's just really good fun being creative with art. Right, now we want the browns in. Nice kind of terracotta red. I'm using a bit of watercolour as well on this. On my brown, nice earthy red. Like I say, the colours in the film on the Dragon Riders, Valkas. Gear will have been, you know, from ochres and earth colours that are around that they could get. You know, all of our zingy purples and everything are kind of, in medieval times, would have been very expensive to produce. So here you can see just blocking in quickly. It doesn't matter if you get little fuzzy lines going off, that all just adds to the joy of painting with watercolours, and we're just blocking in the colours very, very quick. Again, I just want to show you how simple it is to just have fun with painting. The stones are going to be a grey colour. We just need to block these in very quickly. Get the colour in on a leg. And then we can put darker colour on. We need to get the red on in a second. On a shield and on a cape. If we just put the brown tone in there, and then we can darken those down in a second. You can see how simple it is just by attacking the picture. It is to get a reasonably good rendition down very, very quickly. Let's just lighten that up a bit. Do the spikes on the top of her helmet as they come in. I'm going to put brown in her eyes for now, and then we'll darken them down in a second, because if you put layers of colour on, it really helps to build things up, to build, you know, the colour, the multiple layers through watercolour, make it stand out really, really nicely. So now we need a lot of red. You can hear it just scratching into the colour, and you get these painting sets, you know, with all the individual colours, and that's really nice. So don't be afraid like there to go over the line as well, because you're just doing something to enjoy it and have fun, and that's part of the joys of being creative. You can just slap the paint around and really enjoy it. So here we've got the cape going in. And the bigger the brush, you'll need to load it with more paint. I mean, I'm using the same size. This is a number 5 Willow nylon brush rather than using sables, which are very expensive. This is a nylon manufactured brush, and they're just great because you can scrub them in and they take a lot of abuse. So let's just get some of the flappy bits of torn. And you can see as you add an extra brush stroke on, you get a little bit extra colour. So well, let's get the red on the front of a shield. That's looking quite good already. Again, this is just putting the very quick first layers down, and you can spend as long as you want doing this. You know, I used to sit down as a child and just draw and colour in and paint for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. It's just really good fun, and you can just enjoy recreating your own little worlds. And it's people who've done that have ended up, like me, being artists who've come up with these stories that we enjoy, such as How to Train Your Dragon. So we're now going to start darkening down. Oh, before I do that, I'll use a smaller one. Let's get some grey. Let's colour these stones in very quickly. And the thing with painting is, or even drawing, just you can put the colours in other places as well. So we need to, don't be afraid to put other colours over the top. So here on the side we need to build up the side of a mask. So now I'm getting some darker colours, and you're putting the lines in on the armour, making those stand out. Making the shadows, I mean, I'm using it a slightly darker brown there, and that's how that deepens that down. But using a finer brush you can get for slightly finer lines. But shadows, you can also use blue. So if you mix blues in and purples, they help with colours. And if you're watching the film, you'll see how when the characters are lit, how amazing they all stand out if they use, there's a little bit of purple there as well on my palette. How they use different colours like purples and oranges for highlights and shadows, and it just adds atmosphere and texture, which is great. So here I'm just quickly putting in just some more colour over the top, so you can see the shadow going on. You need shadow, really I need a bit of a grey kind of colour. Just to really darken that down a little bit, and we can grey this, make the shadow stand out. Really dark black and grey for the eyes. Makes it look a little bit creepy and a little bit scary. And that was the thing in the first one, the dragons were made out to be scary, weren't they? Because they were trying to get food, and in reality they weren't. And a lot of people who look different to you, you might think are scary, but in reality they're not. They just wear different clothes, and Valka's tried to protect the dragons and help them. So now we're getting some really dark colours. This is a blue mixed with the black. You can see how straight away that's darkening everything down quite nicely. And just put the shadows on the undersides. So I can highlight that prong, and that's got a shadow coming down. What I will do is we'll get a nice load of bluey purpley colour, and then we can darken down the shield, and that gives you an extra bit of shadow. Put that across. This is a very grey blue purple colour, so down here you can see how it just creates a shadow on a kind of dragon lance. A lot of blue, kind of bluey black now, just to make our hand darken down with those three claws. And underneath the skirts, and it just pushes it. Blue colours recede and yellows and reds come forwards, so that'll help you when you come to wanting things to go back. This is just basic colour theory. Blues do go backwards, if you remember that, and yellows and reds are warm and come forward. So if you think blue cold for snow and ice, then that'll help you when it comes to, the stitching on there, and the stitching coming across. There, it'll help you when you come to doing your shadows. So now we need a lot of this black and blue, and you'll get the shadow under the cape coming down, and you can just get some water, smudge it a little bit, and that'll help it come down. You need to darken the layer. You've got quite a shadow coming down there. But there, very quickly you can see how simple it is, and we'll use a bit of darker reds to just use paint to colour in. And this is what's so much fun about art, you know, so you can draw your favourite characters from films and cartoons and comic books. Just add a little bit of darker red with a bit of blue in there and a bit of purple, and that'll add it up. Just clean your brush out as much as you can. I'll get a kind of orangey colour, and you can just put some texture on the shield that she's got. And you can really add your darks in. And hopefully you can see, just using shapes at the beginning, how quick and simple. I'm using the black with the blue in now, just to really darken underneath the flapping cape in the wind. Hopefully you can see how quick and simple you can recreate some of your favourite characters using paint and colour. Like I say, that's Valka. Let's just create some darker shadows there on a helmet. That'll help define those prongs. Darken her eyes down a little bit more. On these little triangles, again we just want some darker colours for the little stripes that she has on. We need to really darken underneath there. But that is how quick and simple you can recreate a character using shapes and quick painting techniques. And that's Valka, the Dragon Rider, and we'll just get a nice grey brown colour for a quick wash all the way across. For the clouds. And then you can just smush it with water. You can just push that around. You can just smush it. As she came up out of the clouds. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed that. That's a very quick idea showing you how you can recreate some of your favourite characters using just very simple shapes. You can use the grid as I showed you in the early video with Hiccup and with Toothless, or you can just go straight in with shapes and you can just enjoy being vibrantly creative. So I hope you've enjoyed that, and please do subscribe, like the video and share with your friends, and there'll be more in the future. I hope you've enjoyed how to draw, how to train your dragon too. Toothless and Hiccup and the Dragon Rider, his mum Valka. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the movie. Do like and subscribe and check out my future videos. Ta-da.